Welcome back to Book of Dawn, IOTH Academy. We are midway through our episode. Our heroes have been reunited after their escapades led them to be split apart, and they were just about to head to their home, the Great Hall. Arianna's going to get to spend some time there when Inril Untermaler reminded them that the Rupture is going to occur this year. Now, the Rupture, I'll have all of you roll Arcana checks for me, actually.
Bam, let's hit it. Boom. Dice.
Oh.
Well,
Let's go.
damn,
2 nat 20s in a row?
Oh, no. Stealing squeaky's homework again.
I don't have no fucking idea.
Profoundly unlucky.
A little fitting.
Oh no, our ropes are gonna rip, guys. I better get my sewing kit.
All right. The Rupture occurs every 12 years. It's not super well understood. Garnet rolled a natural 20 on this, just to read everybody in. Athalor got a 21 total, Garnet got a 26 on a natural 20, Arianna got a 17 total, and Alyxander got a natural 1. So, Garnet, you happened to have already studied this in great detail, or maybe Squeaky wouldn't stop talking about it because he's a huge nerd for all IOTH Academy lore. Either way, the theory is it's a backlash from just having so much magic in one place in this pocket of dawn magic. Every 12 years, there's sort of this reverse wave of magic that passes through, and it's called the Rupture. Everyone prepares for it ahead of time. It rarely causes any disasters, but it can last for upwards of an hour. And anybody who uses their magic, remember how when you use magic, you start by sort of opening a door to whatever your source of power is. The Rupture makes it so that when you open that door, you lose control of it. And not in a way that just causes it to spread everywhere and blow everything up, but in a way that just saps you of your power. It just immediately drains all of your magical power. Not permanently, but it will just suck the magic right out of you and leave you exhausted, fatigued, and bewildered. So it's a shutdown period, a lockdown period where nobody can cast any spells. Now, Garnet, you got a natural 20 on this. So normal magic, if you open that pathway and that magic gets drained, then the magic is just drained and it doesn't work. Your magic is not normal magic. Your magic is almost anti-magic, absence, void. If you happen to have that gateway stuck open, something else would probably happen. The exact opposite would probably happen. That could be catastrophic.
So Garnet knows this? Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah, you got a natural 20. You've been doing enough reading. Nobody has this theory. It's more that you've put together your own studies with Mirik on shadow magic, your secret classes with Master Elnal, and you're reading into the Rupture, and you've come to the conclusion that if you cast any spells during the Rupture, it could cause some sort of a void catastrophe.
So I probably explained all of that to the group, except the mind magic part, because not to be selfish and talk about myself, I probably just explained the general Rupture thing.
Mm-hmm. All right, so that is now party knowledge.
Interesting.
At that,
What happens to our fishy friend?
Also, your fishy friend did not answer your letter, by the way.
What a dick.
Maybe he can't write because he has no paper because he's trapped.
You just write on the back?
Just send a message back. Oh yeah, he could write on the back.
So does someone leave a sink on?
Send a wet page back.
All right, so one of the things that is different this year, because you're now orange robes, you still live in the Great Hall. You have a separate dormitory where you stay. It's not far from the red-robed first years. You notice that it's basically the first 4 years, all the way up to the green robes that all live in the Great Hall. And after you get your green robes, when you switch over to your blue robes, that's when you move on to one of the other places of study for your advanced studies. So this year is the first year that you get to pick an elective. Because if you think about it, you're basically second graders. Oh, no, you're a little bit past second graders. You're probably, I don't know what the equivalent would be. But you do get to pick some electives. Everybody was mostly drawing from the same pool of basic studies. But this year, each of you gets to pick one of these 4 electives. herbalism and botany, magical history, elemental studies, or spiritualism? What is Alexander going to pick?
What is the elementalism?
It's a study of specifically of the flow of elemental energy, the way that the four kingdoms were created and the way that they interact, and how elemental energy interacts with each other.
Okay, probably magical history.
Mm-hmm.
Playing some catch up.
Okay, that's not a bad idea. What is Athalor going to study?
Athalor asks he's going to phone a friend on this one.
Elemental studies, fundamental, rudimentary, foundation of larger planar metaphysics. A place to begin.
Righto then. He would abide by his uncle's wishes.
All right. What is Garnet going to pick?
Oh, what were the choices again?
They were herbalism and botany, magical history, elemental studies, and spiritualism.
Okay, how could you describe spiritualism?
So spiritualism is the study of supernatural beings. It starts out with, and this is, when you're looking at the course material and you're learning about it, it talks about the gods, elementals, fae, the infernals, but it does not talk about them from a dogmatic perspective. This is a totally different take than the praise and holy books that you grew up with. This is a scholarly analysis of the nature of the divine. Because regardless of what you think about their efficacy, whether or not they care, and the power of prayer in this world, it's impossible to deny that the gods exist. And so this is almost like a scientific, straight-up viewpoint on those supernatural entities.
Would it be like in a more advanced version than? Because I kind of read about this stuff already, but I'm assuming this is a more advanced level.
That's a problem. You got a really good education growing up. I think that this is going to teach you more. It will teach you some things that you don't know. It'll overlap to a certain degree. What's going to be most refreshing about it is learning about all of these things without the, again, religious praise heaped up around it in most of the books that you had growing up.
And the elemental class,
it's much more theoretical, right? It's much more about different energy types, the magical flow of energy, of elemental energy, how it rises up from the underworld, forms the basic building blocks of the mortal world, how each type of energy interacts with the other. It's a lot of arcane theory, a lot of math, kind of like chemistry in a way. But it's the math of converting, all right, when this much fire magic is passed through this kind of a spell matrix, you get this much harvestable energy out of it, and it can be countered by this much water in this amount through this matrix. So it's a lot of formulas for different elemental interactions. It's the fundamentals for some forms of alchemy, different more advanced combat magic, that sort of thing.
How to generate 1 mole of fire.
Exactly.
I was thinking that. I think she'd probably like the spiritualism.
Okay. That's going to be a really interesting experience for her. Because you've got people from all sorts of different faith backgrounds living here. And this is them being taught from like a neutral, as objective as possible position.
All your gods ain't shit.
And what is Arianna going to study? Again, magical history, elemental studies, spiritualism, and herbalism and botany. Herbalism and botany are the same choice.
Was that to me?
Yes.
I was like, I've had this picked out for a long time. So I didn't know if I had actually said it already. Herbalism and botany, for sure.
Wait, we ended up with 1 in each.
Yeah, there's no 2 people taking the same class.
I wonder how the DM could have thought
How
of
was
this.
this planned? How could this happen?
Let the record show the party had full agency in this choice. This was not
Someone begins to
conspired.
question human free will. Even on the player side. The simulation's breaking apart.
All right. Renobi ends up in elemental studies,
Nice.
and Squeaky, so she actually ends up in class with Athalor, but Squeaky is going to take magical history.
Making a friend.
Yep. All right, so
Yeah,
this
yeah.
Giggles again.
this year you spend a little bit, well, aside from Arianna, you spend a little bit more time apart because each of you is starting to develop your own interests in your own studies. But something happened last year that I wanted to take us back to for a moment, because Garnet has been studying the shadow arts with Master Ikael now in a secret room hidden under a threshold in one of these. There's like a staircase and it's kind of hidden under that staircase. Alyxander has been mapping the Great Hall, and in the course of his mapping, he discovered not only a gap where a secret room should be, but also some of IOTH's runes. And I am going to show you now what it is that he's discovered.
You're a wizard, Harry.
The word is wizard, and you have runes associated with it.
The word is wizard. What is this, countdown?
So actually, over the year, Alex, partly from knowing that there's the runes with Dubasif and that there's runes here,
Mhm.
tried to study a lot of different language, and actually, as for my class, has picked a certain thing
Ooh, neat.
that is Eyes of the Runekeeper. I can read all writing, and it does extend to runes.
That is literally the one ability in Dungeons and Dragons that would work here. Like,
Yeah.
comprehend languages? No. Any of that other crap? Arcana check? No. Eyes of the Runekeeper would. Oh my god.
Yeah, so throughout his own research and through probably talking to the voice in his head, has gotten a sense to be able to decipher all written language, read all writing.
Okay, well, I'm glad I spent a lot of time prepping all these different clues. That was a good use of time.
What is a puzzle? Actually cheated. Up, down, down. Start select.
It's honestly, that's kind of phenomenal. It is kind of phenomenal. All right, so I'm going to need a moment to give you way more information than I originally planned on. While I do that, the rest of you go ahead and, again, it's over the course of a year. You can pop up and create scenes, get into trouble, do research, whatever it is that you'd like to do. Buy me some time while I pull up everything.
Would Alexander ever be caught staring at the runes?
Up to you.
Yeah, I would say probably it's likely that at some point Athalor could have stumbled across him. Kind of.
So we can start up like, what you looking at?
Well, I mean, I draw maps and everything, and we're in a new area now. I was trying to make a new one of the Great Hall, and
Wouldn't that be a floor plan?
is the floor plan different from a map, or like all floor plans maps, but not all maps are floor plans, like that kind of thing?
Now this is something we should ask a teacher. Their brain would explode.
I don't actually know. But anyways, there's some inconsistency here. There's something that should be here, and there's a little rune as well. Makes me think that there's something hidden, perhaps.
Oh.
Is this for the secret room or is this somewhere else? I forgot.
Yeah.
Oh, muted DM Lamau.
+1 XP. Yes, this is where your secret room is.
Ooh, +5.
Oh, well, I guess you've discovered my hideout, but that's okay. I actually, that's my little study room, where me and, I just study, there after hours.
Where you and Squeaky go?
Ugh. No.
Oh, I thought that was going to be a
No.
yes. Thought that's what the.
Oh, you and
Huh.
who?
No. Not like that. Do you really think I would have to do any favors to get anything? Really?
Depends on what it is you wanted.
Well, it depends. Would maybe you don't want us seeing you cuddling up by a
I would
fire
not get
with
my
a scroll.
first kiss to
with
someone with a
sleeping.
bowl cut.
What about a second kiss?
I would never. For math homework, please. It's a lot more valuable.
Well, why do you have a secret study room, Garnet?
I just like silence. And
Garnet, do you
I don't-
remember? Have we discussed what was on this? I know that there was like a metaphysical chart of the four kingdoms on there in this room, along with a lot of other kind of advanced materials and charts. I do believe that Master Elnau has been careful not to leave any texts of shadow magic lying around. But
Yeah, I
you
remember
can
you
add any other
explaining the
details to the room
chart.
you'd like to as well.
I remember you explaining the chart, but I don't remember what else. But it'd probably be some like dusty, like old office looking kind of, where there's books and stuff laying around. But yeah, I just like alone time. I don't like people when I'm focused. I don't want any noise. And Athalor, he always bap 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 every time I'm doing work, and that's just my little safe space.
So you're going to let us in?
Why? It's my hideout.
Didn't she just say it was to keep like you out specifically, Athalor?
Yeah.
'Cause,
Well, yes, but the jig is up now.
I mean, true, you've been found out.
Well, it's because I trust you guys not to tell anyone else. And, well, I gotta help Alex complete his map. There's a big old hole on it, and it just looks strange when it's not complete. So I'm really
Oh.
just being a good friend telling you.
Yeah, then let's go in and complete the map.
Alex
That's a
only.
solid argument.
Alex only. Athalor, keep your buggy eyes somewhere else.
You are so mean.
So Arianna's just kind of standing out there in the corridor.
Arianna at this point is, she's just taking everything in. She has nothing to add to this conversation. She's still giggling to herself about potentially Squeaky and Garnet like hanging out together down there. Like she's off in her own little world.
All right,
This
so
is canon for her now.
headcanon confirmed.
Garnet doesn't know that you think it's canon, so she just
Nope.
sees you giggling, so it's just like whoosh.
Situational irony, friend.
All right, so as you go in, I am going to go ahead. I've posted up what the words on the circle say in IOTH's secret runes that literally only Eyes of the Runekeeper could instantaneously crack without having to search throughout the rest of the school for other instances of these runes to slowly decipher what every single letter is and decoding it that way. But that's fine. This is totally fine.
Whoop.
This is totally fine.
Yeah, this is good too. This is good too.
The
It's all
words
planned.
are Eyeless 4.
What?
And some of the letters are capitalized, some of them are not.
Eyeless 4.
4 eyeless 4.
In fact, there's exactly 2 letters in the circle of runes that are capitalized. The letter Y in the word eyeless, and the first S in the word eyeless.
Is this in the context of Crone sharing it with the gang, or?
Crowan, you have this information. Alexander can do with it as he pleases. We're also doing the thing where he enters into the secret study chamber. That's also happening. But I wanted to let you know, you've basically, as soon as you look at the thing after you've developed the Eyes of the Runekeeper, a supernatural power plus your own studies, that's what you see now.
Yeah, imagine this be the first time kind of like returning to it, just to kind of like
Mhm.
confirm that, like, is this what this says? As then Athalor stumbles across them and this whole scene is transpiring.
Mhm.
So probably before he says anything, would just go into the room first upon Garnet's kind of invitation,
Mhm.
and then kind of go from there.
So there's a secret panel that lets you go underneath the staircase, and it leads into this kind of flat, wide-ish, with a low ceiling. It looks like an office or a classroom. There are, again, charts on the wall that depict the 4 kingdoms of Anacra, the different worlds that interlock together. There are some old like blackboards up. They've got all sorts of fairly advanced magical theory written on them. Parts of them have been erased. Garnet, you would know that a lot of these parts are kind of the key aspects of shadow magic, where Master Elnau would explain how normal magic works, and then underneath say, now if you apply shadow magic with the same principles, you get this instead. And that's the part that's been erased. You also see what am I looking for here? A large parchment, almost like a map, but it's not a map. It shows the symbol of the 4 pillars: birth, life, death, and renewal. Often used as a symbol of the Sun Rider Zalar, but the symbol transcends that. It just refers to the entire cycle of creation. There's some other study materials lying around, but again, it's weirdly sparse in some ways as you poke around. The two of you are in that room. You can do as you please. And Arianna and Athalor are just standing outside. You see the secret panel slide open and then shut behind them.
So, well, in this room, Alex kind of looking around, taking it all in, and say, "Are you like, Garnet? Are you like royalty or something? Did you like buy the secret room to get away from Athalor's loudness? I don't understand how you get all this."
Oh, well, I wouldn't buy a room in the basement. I'd at least get like a balcony, but no, it's just something I found that no one else uses. So, here we are. So it's a little dusty, but I figured you should complete your map. So it'll be worth something someday, I guess.
Thank you. I think. How did you just find this? How did you get in then? If you just found it, it's not easy to read the runes to get in here.
Oh, do you need to, out of character, do you need to read the runes to get in here?
No, you don't. They're just an old marking that's been left over.
Oh, okay.
You've, I think he noticed them long before you did. They're kind of out of the way in that little alcove. You've always, whenever you've gone here, you've been about to learn more about the secrets of shadow magic. It's very, distracting. You're not looking around at the weird undercropping, the lip of the stairs to see the hidden runes there.
I think Alex probably still say that anyway. Probably thinks they're connected in some way.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you can read those? Oh, I never actually knew that was there. I saw it was decoration. What's it say?
Didn't know it was there. It says Eyeless 4.
So the runes here on the wall say wizard.
Okay.
The runes here say wizard. Eyeless 4 is what the runes on the binding circle for Dubasif say. And again, by finding the word wizard, you have like 6 letters, and now you can start to figure out the other letters, or you could have Eyes of the Runekeeper.
So, sorry, a second, though, the runes that are in this room say...
Just says wizard.
Just says wizard. Oh. The ones in this room say wizard.
Oh. Wait, does it have like the common letters there too, or is it just the symbols for that wizard thing?
It has the symbols, and then somebody scratched underneath, like into the wood. They scratched. The symbols were burned in, and the transcription for wizard was scratched in.
But so you couldn't read that then?
Well, I guess someone wrote wizard there. Wasn't me. I would never graffiti. That's disgusting. But I'm not a wizard. I don't know why it's written there. Maybe this is some old wizard room or something. But yeah, it's just I don't really touch most of these books. I just bring my own. And it's nice and quiet. No one knows about it except you.
Now what is she hiding?
So, Garnet.
Yeah.
Never mind. I'll just.
Are you writing this down?
Yeah, actually, as he's like, never mind, starts like pulling out his map and starts like sketching out where the room and the dimensions and stuff would be. Try to get.
If you're going to take the coward's route, at the very least, memorize everything you can see in here. Anything that could possibly reveal her secret.
Yeah, Alex will take careful note of the room with intention of maybe sneaking back in there at some point on his own.
All right.
We'll see.
I guess kind of lead Alex back out when he's done, and then just shut the door behind me and just.
One moment, there's one more line. Okay,
Oh.
okay, got it. All right.
Okay. Oh, are you done? Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. I just glare at Athalor as I shut the door behind me aggressively.
Well,
Get your own hideout.
Yeah, I thought it's just a room. There's looks
It's
like
a
this
cool
on a
room,
map.
Alex. Come on.
Oh, sorry, it is a cool room, Athalor. One
Yeah.
away from you for her own reasons, I guess. Maybe that's what makes it cool too. I don't know.
I'm sure that she has plenty to hide.
Yeah, I think so. Like Squeaky, right?
Ah, you guys.
Ariana just starts laughing again.
And Athalor would just laugh at Arianna.
Arianna, help me out here. They're ganging up on me. This is stupid.
There's nothing wrong with needing a study partner. We all have our ups and downs. You know what? I'm proud of you for making moves to try and have a study partner without us having to know. Very industrious.
Squeaky doesn't know about this. What?
Then nothing.
I don't know if you know what alone time means, but it's when you're alone.
I'm sure you've had plenty of practice, Garnet.
Yes, I have. And I'm just like storming up.
wait, Garnet, wait.
What? I
So, and I was just wanting to test my theory on this door, but I think I can read runes and stuff now from my
What? Really?
studying. Yeah.
How'd you do that?
A lot of research.
What's funny is the Eyes of the Runekeeper is actually a supernatural power. So he's been doing, I think Alexander honestly has been studying runes as well.
Mhm.
But the way that you perceive them when you look at them is almost this cold blue light, the same light that came from the eyes of the herald as he walked you into the city. And you can see the real meanings of the letters floating in these icy blue scars in the air above the runes. No one else sees that, obviously.
Yeah, a lot of research. It's taken up a lot of my time. If you haven't seen me around that much, it's probably the reason why. But if I do perceive, there was runes there, and I know what they say now. Noted them down. So I don't know if we want to do anything with that, but
For Arianna and Athalor, was there any indication as to how the door to the secret rooms opens and closes?
Both of you roll perception checks.
While they do that, I'm just gonna quickly say, like, so you are good at something. And you just hid that.
is that I thought maybe if you studied, you could have it too. I didn't know that was a
That's incredible.
special
I've been
thing.
studying magic for years and I don't know how to read those silly symbols. That's really great. That's really useful too.
Yeah, seems it. I think.
With the two of the outside group rolling an 11 and a 9 on their perception check, as Alexander and Garnet reemerged from the secret room, you saw the two of them kind of poking, looking around, and they quickly acting like they were up to nothing. Or at least Athalor. I'm not going to speak for you both. You haven't been able to determine exactly how it opens. You know roughly the right area. If you come back and no one's watching you, you might be able to do a proper search, but you haven't figured it out yet.
Was Garnet's and Alex's conversation in earshot, or was Alex like running after her after she?
The most
Got
recent
mad about
conversation
being
that
like-
just transpired.
Oh, the most recent
Yeah.
would be for everyone to hear.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Well, that'd be fun to go and take a look, but how do we get out there?
It is all the way back in the grove.
You didn't have to leave anything there, did you, Arianna?
Don't think so. Unless
So-
they allow me to do some botany and herbalist studies there. There's a
Ha-ha.
lot of plants I might
Ah!
need to examine further.
All right. So, just to clarify, first off, that is a great idea, and I want to investigate that further. Second, Because you wrote down and copied the rune circle yourself, you're able to translate it now. But that doesn't mean you know how to mess with it when you get back to it.
Yep.
You've been able to translate it, but it doesn't mean much to you. So there may be some more work to do here before you go back, unless you're trying to go back and just like look for more information. Just knowing what these words say isn't enough for you to like mess with it.
Mm-hmm.
Frankly, the words eyeless 4 aren't part of any spell that you've studied. Like, that doesn't give any immediate indication of how the circle actually works. Normally it'd be the name of some binding elemental or spirit or, you know, an arcane formula. This is not an arcane formula. This is a weird phrase.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think, well, I mean, I guess step one of this is done, and might need to do some figuring out about how to actually mess with them from there, but if we want to in the future, they're looking like it's a possibility.
Well, we all took different classes, right? Has anyone heard something about 4 eyeless things mentioned in their class?
None of you have.
Mm. Well, maybe it'll come up at some point. Just let me know if you hear anything. Let all of us know if you hear anything. Maybe I'll do some more of my own research.
I might read some history books, see if there's anything there that... Well, he said that this was cast by IOTH, right? So maybe something to do with IOTH's history is detailed here.
Hasn't IOTH done like a lot of stuff? Isn't there like...
Well, not recently, it would seem.
That is true.
If he even exists.
Might be fake.
Well, I'll look into that then. And if anyone has any other ideas, there are obviously lots of books here. So I'm sure one of us will find out what 4 eyeless is.
Well, if that's it. Athalor, how's it been going with Renobi?
Yeah, how's it going with Renobi?
We are
Nobi.
both learning fundamental elementalism quite well, thank you. It's good. It's good.
And dance?
And well, it just helps our brains, doesn't it? You heard what the teacher said. We need to be able to push out all of our excess energy, and I think we're doing that quite well.
Glad to hear. It's just been you look at her more often than you do other things when she's in the area.
Well, I've simply never met someone like her before. We didn't have many of the tieflings back where I came from.
Accurate.
Understandable.
Lore. Pog.
Don't roll for persuasion.
Are tieflings not common anywhere? Or just where...
Tieflings are extremely common in the areas that are under the control of the demonic Imperiums. A lot of them are able to escape the demonic Imperiums, and so they join some of the refugee cultures. They can be found in small pockets in a lot of the other cultures, but not so much amongst the Alfar. Again, a lot of the civilians and folks inside of the Iron Empire, the Machine City, lots of tieflings there.
Shall we
Should we
split
go
up and
talk?
look for clues?
We can do more damage that way.
I don't assume Froggy Boy would know what this means, right? If this has to do with the crimes or something he knows.
Might actually be bad for him to know what it says. Unless he can read it already, maybe he can like free himself that way or something.
I don't think we want him to have the option to free himself.
No.
I don't think we should tell him. Something
okay.
tells me that's a bad idea.
Yeah, I think so too. But yeah, we can look for clues. I guess that's the only really thing left.
All right, does the gang split up, or does anyone have anything else for this scene in the hallway?
Time to run to a library.
Sounds like we're good. Okay, we're gonna go.
History.
we're going to go one by one. Starting off with Alexander. Alexander, you are in magical history class with Cryus, aka Squeaky.
Yep.
Yay!
Now, a lot of the history of magic is also IOTH's history, because he's credited as being the first mage. Not the first entity to wield magic, of course, but the first mage of the modern era. So there's a lot of talking about, they go briefly into the fall of Luminius, the city of light that was devoured by the Infernals in the Dawn era. So you learn about the time before the four kingdoms were separated, when they were one world, the Dawn world, where anything was possible. And the beings there who could shape themselves however they like had a gathering place, Luminius, the city of light, which is indescribable because it didn't obey the laws of physics. Its light is what drew the Infernals to Anacra. The Infernals devoured it and destroyed it, and the dragons were unleashed upon the world to scour the Infernals, and the sovereigns divided the world into the four kingdoms. This will, not for you, Crowan, but for Alexander, this will be on the test. This is the one time I can say that.
Okay.
And then they talk about IOTH was actually he was a survivor of Luminius, the city of light, and one of the first Alfar, because when those beings when the worlds were divided, they had to choose bodies for themselves. They could no longer be ever changing. And so many of them became, those who most remembered Luminius and its glory, became the Alfar, the Dawn Elves, Athalor's people, and the people who raised Arianna. And IOTH was one of them, one of the greatest among them. And given that the world he knew before had been separated, divided, and changed, he set about traveling throughout the four kingdoms to better understand it. And it is through that process that he figured out, okay, what are the new rules of reality and how does it work? He spent a lot of time interacting with fairies and elementals, even fiends, from a safe distance most of the time, sometimes up close, and other beings that didn't need to learn magic because it was part of their nature. And so he studied how they wielded magic, and he came up with formulas and rituals and mental exercises that he could use to tap into those different kinds of powers. And so he and a bunch of his companions traveled around the world. They found that magical energy flows upwards from the underworld and across the surface of the mortal world. And there were little pockets of the dawn, that reality where anything was possible, little pieces of that potential left here and there. And they found the biggest one that they could come across, and that's where they built IOTH Academy. There is more to this history than just the IOTH Super Happy Fun Trivia Hour, but given that he's basically the person who invented mortal magic, a lot of it is about him. Now, the class does say other people were figuring this out at the same time. The 10 dragon tribes of Okarthal, because the dragons lived amongst mortals and were still hunting fiends, even though they defeated the Infernals long ago, but the new dragons that were born from that just started hunting fiends, and they had descendants with mortals who inherited their power. So IOTH didn't totally invent magic. He just sort of came up with, okay, I'm going to learn from these people and these people and these people and develop a unified theory of magic. So you're learning a lot of this historical stuff. And there's this chill, this venomous cold that passes through you every time somebody says the word Luminius. But the voice does not comment on it. Cryus, apparently, aka Squeaky, already knows almost all of this stuff. And as you're going over different parts, he's the one who says, we left out the journey that they took into the depths of the world where the Dok Elfar sage did this, this, and this. Like, he just keeps on bringing up little details that the teacher's like, yes, that is a thing that happened, but this isn't the minutia class. This is the broad strokes class. But he's clearly done all the reading. He's really up on all of this stuff. He's a fanboy. How does Alexander do in his classes, and is he doing anything specific to try to uncover the mystery of Dubasif's circle? Is there anything you want to add here? Anything you want to narrate?
Yes. So in terms of how he's doing in his classes, I mean, you need to be paying attention for this. Like, he is curious to understand magical history, not just because part of it's interesting to him, but out of probably necessity of like needing to understand how this
Mhm.
world works, as he is, wasn't intended to be here.
Mhm.
So be paying attention, taking notes, all of that about this, and notes for later, the Luminius thing kind of being weird inside of him. Um, would ask Sneaky or Squeaky
Mhm.
at some point. What, like, why are you taking this class? You already know everything. Why didn't you take one of the other ones?
It's a prerequisite for the ones I really want to get into.
Oh, unlucky that
got
they
a
do it that
He
way.
he shows you his he shows you his chart of the next 7 years of his education with all of his classes like picked in order for him to get into the high tower that he wants to study in.
The
Oh
flow
my
chart.
god.
Oh, that's crazy. Do you know anything about binding circles?
I mean, I haven't really focused in on it as much. It's not as applicable to my studies, to the plan.
It's fine. Just curious. You seem
No.
to know a whole lot. Sure, that's why Garnet's so interested. Anyways, yeah, for the test later on, I'm sure that you're going to do splendid on it. So, good luck.
You two study hard. He seems a little flustered and lost focus. Accidentally made a mark on his 7-year plan.
Oh no, not the 7-year plan.
He's like,
Uh,
which class was I going to take in year 5? Which elective was I supposed to take?
But for the do Basif thing, I think Alexander wants to try to eavesdrop on some older years classes to see if there's any like more advanced magics that might be more applicable to changing or messing with binding circles, or at least magic of that kind of same vein.
Will he share the plan?
Yeah.
'Cause if so, Athalor would offer to lend him the ear horn of hearing.
Ooh. Yeah, be in the groups like, yeah, I think actually over lunch or something, I think I'm going to start to. I mean, there's up to year 4 here, right? And they must have more advanced classes, so gonna probably try to listen in on some of them sneakily.
Well, if you need to sneak with your floor plan, maybe you could go to a room above and use the ear horn on the floor.
That's a fantastic idea. That actually would make it a lot easier, I think, to not get spotted. If I can borrow it.
Nems wants to say something.
Oh, that's really smart. And I'm going to allow you to use your cartography tools instead of stealth because you're not sneaking. You're just getting into an unusual room. Very
Okay,
smart.
I'll get you the horn. I'll be right back.
All right.
In the meantime, yes. Comes back, gives the horn. Lovely stuff. Teamwork.
Yeah.
All right. Let us swiftly handle this infiltration. Roll a cartography tools check for me, Alexander.
All right. A 7. Do I have inspiration somewhere? I think I do.
Let us consult. Yeah.
Any lucky dice?
No, you have inspiration for your MLG rune Eyes of the Runekeeper move earlier.
Nice.
All right, let's burn that and go for it.
Never mind. Even worse.
A natural 1. That's hilarious.
That is
all right.
Gaming.
You end up lost. You're in the wrong class entirely.
Ooh.
So you spend a few hours just wandering around trying to get into the right area. You put your horn down, and you're actually going to accidentally listen into another character's in this party's class. So whenever you'd like, we're going to now move on throughout the rest of the team. But whenever you'd like, you can just go ahead and interject that Alexander is accidentally listening to this class. Athalor is doing elemental studies, which is very rigorous. Again, lots of math, a lot of arcane formulas for when you combine these two energies, earth and fire combine to form magma, but you need a lot more fire than you do earth. That's not a direct one-to-one. So on and so forth. Renobi is also in that class. She takes her studies very seriously. She's very, very focused and disciplined. How is Athalor approaching his studies? Is there anything that you want to narrate or add to what's going on?
Athalor in this study is not only like using his academic zeal, but is also allowing almost like full mental access to his benefactor to make sure that the more complicated concepts remain a bit more within reach.
You find yourself sometimes just writing down formulas and not even thinking about it. Alien thoughts pass through your mind. The more of that door that you open, the more you start to visualize the numbers themselves, not as, floating hangover charts in front of you, but you actually see like the energies folding in on each other and becoming something different. You see the geometry of the world. One of the things that you learn in this class is that the underworld, which lies at the core of everything, is essentially the point where all elements return, are purified, and then rise back up. And that includes life energy. So when folks die, whenever any life energy is expended, it basically trickles back through the earth into the underworld, is purified and cleansed where it meets all the elements, and then is available to form new life. It's often catalyzed as blood, the blood of the earth itself. That is a point. You come out of this class aware of that fact. If you ever mention it to Renobi or anyone else, they did not learn that fact. That life energy actually coagulates as the Earth's blood. Nobody knows how you figured that part out. But you have a very intricate understanding of that flow, almost an inhalation, exhalation of energy throughout the multiverse. And you develop a very, very advanced understanding. I'll say partial understanding because it's not even all your mind.
Mm-hmm.
Was there anything you wanted to work towards, accomplish, or a scene you wanted to throw into these studies?
I suppose he'd be wondering about the ability to use or recycle previously used life energy for things that might deal necrotic damage, etc.
Yes, that is also something that they're teaching like the fundamentals. They don't teach that concept in this class. But your uncle will happily explain it to you. The flow of life energy, like necrotic energy, it's just life energy in reverse. So if you use the right spells, the right magic, you can either open the door of your power directly to the underworld, to sort of the downswell, because there's a downswell of life energy and an upswell of life energy. If you connect to the downswell, it's going to pull life energy with it. You open a conduit of that, tie that into your spells. Now your spells are going to drain life force, and that's necrotic magic. Now, some people can just open a gateway to that. A lot of wizards handle things that way. Because wizards not all wizards, Arianna, have access to their own inner doorway of power. They don't have any magical gift. There's no supernatural abilities. What they do is they understand mental exercises that allow them to open that door to whatever the form of energy they need happens to be. You are a sorcerer. Your doorway of power passes through unknown, aberrant depths. It's a little bit disorienting every time that you open it. And you use that doorway to then create an energy matrix that can draw the type of energy you need. So you don't directly tap into fire, for example. You create you open the gateway of your power, then you create a matrix that attracts fire energy into it and deploy that. So you can do the same with...
Very useful for Arms of Hadar.
Oh, Arms of Hadar. That is slightly different.
Oh my.
Yeah. That is we'll get into that. But yeah, you've learned basically the way that life draining and necrotic energy works is you just tap into the part of the natural life cycle where energy is being drawn down into the underworld, and you just say, "Here, have some of this."
Yo, you guys want to spin to death?
You want to buy some death sticks? Anything else for Athalor? Any trouble he wants to get into or things he wants to investigate?
You want to go to the next class and rethink your life?
I want to go to the next class and rethink my life. All right. Garnet, you're studying spiritualism. It is almost they start with almost a taxonomy, defining different types of supernatural entities. They strongly discourage the use of the word gods because...
Alex is going to listen to this class, by the way.
Perfect. Excellent. Yeah. Your teacher starts out by saying the word God is meaningless. The spirit, a town that dwells by a nearby river, a river inhabited by a spirit, could call that spirit a god and be right. And I could go down to that town, take their god, stick it in an iron flask, and walk away with it. And now I have their god in my pocket. The sovereign of stone, who is the earth itself, discorporated by the blade of the destroyer, one of the fundamental anchors of all reality, vast beyond our comprehension, could also be called a god. Now, are those the same thing? Not really. There are gods everywhere in every stone. There are gods in our stories. There are gods that dwell in places we will never see. There are gods of crossroads, of winds, individual specific winds, of specific forests and trees. And so we're not going to use that word anymore because it doesn't actually tell you anything. We'll be using the proper taxonomy in this course. The course goes on to first start with the sovereigns, the four elemental deities who essentially are the elements themselves. They cannot be killed, they cannot be destroyed because they are earth, fire, air, and water themselves. The sovereign of stone was not destroyed, not killed by the blade of the destroyer. She was discorporated. Somehow her ability to manifest herself, her will, her avatar, her direct presence is gone. But that does not mean that she's dead. You can't kill them. If you tried to kill them, you'd have to literally destroy every scrap of soil, every single stone, every mineral in order for her to be destroyed. The sovereigns, and she's going to illustrate all this, not using an actual chalkboard, but like using cantrips to magically draw a diagram spreading down. The sovereigns begat the Titans. And as she says this, symbols and names of Titans start appearing on the board. And they derive from, so there's a line connecting Sin, the sovereign of fire, and Vindur, the sovereign of the skies. And it goes right down to the familiar symbol that's on your arm, the symbol of Zalar. But it's one amongst a whole bunch of others. The Titans are the direct creations or offspring of the sovereigns. They're each given dominion over a specific aspect of the world, a specific element. Things from the four winds, to weather, to gold beneath the earth, to iron and metals that are used to forge weapons and tools. They are many more in number than the sovereigns. And they're significantly powerful. This class is not a who would win class, but I would say that though they are less than the sovereigns, their might is still significant. They have the ability to bless their followers with their power. In this school, we learn the Arcane Arts, the ability to use your mind, your will, and learning to open the door to power. Titans, sovereigns, and other entities that we often call gods can simply bless their followers and open that door for them. That is divine magic. It is not what we practice in this school. There are many traditions of it throughout the world. We will learn a little bit about it in this class. The Infernals flips the board over. We will not be going into detail. And this is probably a good time for me to mention this. During this class, you will be learning the names of some of the most powerful entities in the Four Kingdoms. If you say these names, they might hear you. There is a reason that the followers of the gods call upon them in their prayers by name. There's a reason that every god has its own titles that don't include their names. I have found in my life that it is best to use those titles because whether for good or for ill, the attention of the gods is a terrible burden. Am I understood?
I probably don't nod or do anything.
Yeah. All the prayers you learned, they always they have all the titles, the Sun Rider, the Purifying Light, but you were raised to call Xalar by name. The Infernals, the cruel gods, who came from beyond the hungry dark to devour Anacra's light and remake it in their own image. Responsible for the state of the world at the moment, responsible for the discorporation of Arakura, the Sovereign of Stone. Among them, the Destroyer, and a symbol appears of two crossed blades. The one who discorporated Arakura with a blade forged of the earth's blood. The ruin that walks, an image of a swarm of flies appears. The machine prince, an iron gear appears. The serpent, a snake appears. The messenger, a skull, a wand topped with a skull, topped with two wings, appears. Alex, as you're listening up above, a chill runs down your spine.
Yep.
Monk.
The class goes on to detail the Sovereigns and the Titans, which are the elemental gods, the Infernals, who are the cruel gods, the Archfey, who are nature spirits, much more chaotic. They're divided into different courts. They've meddled in mortal affairs before. They dwell in the other world. The dragon gods get a mention. And so a lot of this class, as the year goes on, is just saying, we're going to define what a Titan is. We're going to learn what they all are. We're going to learn some of their abilities and some of their past actions. One of the other things that gets driven across here is that none of these entities are infallible, none of them are perfect, and none of them are invincible, except maybe the Sovereigns, who probably can't be killed, but can be defeated. How does Garnet handle this class? Is there anything that you want to add into this? What's her take on it? Anything specifically she's trying to learn?
She probably disagrees with maybe some things, especially the big theme of, gods are just not a thing, and it's these specific titles, but Garnet has always kind of idolized these beings that she considers gods, and she kind of thinks gods are powerful. And when she compares the guy, when he was talking about a spirit and run up and put him in a jar, she probably rolls her eyes and is like, well, it's not a very good god now, is it? It's just not a powerful one. And she's just kind of one of those feels like she knows more, because she feels okay, this is the class where she knows probably 70% of what's being talked about. So she might not pay attention, might just prank, do small pranks, or just annoy other students subtly. And but if you want me to act that out, I can, but I think the most important part is
it's fine for you to set that tone. Why don't you give me a sleight of hand or some other skill check to represent these and to see if you end up getting caught and talked to. You can make a call.
Thing is that I have a ability that makes it so my cantrips, I have no verbal or somatics.
Ooh, okay. I'm gonna have you roll an Arcana check with advantage.
Okay.
Because you're using your magic to pull these pranks, right?
Yeah. Did that come in? Okay.
Yeah, it did. A 24 total. All right. So odd things. What are some examples of pranks that you end up pulling in the class? Just a couple of small examples.
She probably would use minor illusion to create an evil, when the Infernals lecture comes up, she would probably the student next to her would be an evil, a whisper type of loudness, but like an evil laugh in a student's ear. One that especially looks frail and fragile, just to kind of spook some people. Because I'm sure like some people are like, "Oh, Infernals are so scary," and I'm like, "Ah, whatever. They're just people." And then I'm like trying to spook classmates and stuff, and yeah, mostly
you
using kind of
invoke
minor
my
illusion.
name?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
that
heard that.
that elicits a little bit of a reaction from the teacher. The teacher's not able to identify exactly who did that, but will say that outside of these protected bounds, hundreds die every day on sacrificial altars, and thousands more toil to satisfy the endless greed and pride of the cruel gods. They hold sway over vast portions of the mortal world. Mock them at your own risk. It never gets tied to you, Garnet. You never get called in on it. But roll an insight check for me as well, Garnet.
Okay. Popping 20.
Natural 20. Wow. Okay. First off, the Iron Butchers, who kind of ruined your life, they're associated with the Machine Prince, who's one of the Infernals, whose name you'd probably actually learn in your secret studies, because they're not teaching the Infernals' names in this course, but you'd probably learn that in your secret studies. So this suffering that the teacher is talking about, you've experienced firsthand. Also, some of your classmates, you've already experienced this with just your immediate friends. They all come from different walks of life. Several of them, their lives have been changed by the demonic Imperiums. Several of them have lost people to it. And that's one of the reasons. Like, you pull your pranks and you get away with them totally free. But you pick up with a natural 20 on insight that this is not just something where they're the boogeymen that people are afraid of. Some of your classmates, some of these people, their families were enslaved or killed, or they grew up as refugees because of the Infernals. Almost all the dogma of Brontha is about how Xalar is the light that will burn away the Infernals. Like, it's a walled city, armed to the teeth, whose citizens are trained, many of the citizens are trained from birth to fight, because the armies of the Iron Empires and the Infernals and their minions are out there. So this is that thing where, like, you sort of, you make a joke about it, and Brontha equals the Swiss. You make a joke about it.
Literally, they are the Swiss looking over at Germany like, no chance, mate.
But you realize it's partially kind of that superstitious, ooh, evil darkness, I don't like that. And it's partially this, oh, these are the people behind the raiders that dragged away my family while I watched. So it's definitely a difficult subject amongst many members of your whole class. And this is not an attitude restricted to this class you're taking. Some of the people here have been insulated from the fight their entire lives. Some of them were barely plucked from it at the last second. How Garnet reacts to that is up to you.
So she probably realized, like, she probably thought it was like a harmless joke, kind of thinking like everyone should be at her maturity level, right? Kind of like if anyone is just being a kid at this age, it's just like, oh, come on, like, grow up kind of thing. So when she sees like genuine like scare and just like how frightened some people are from like, mimicking evil voices during the Infernals thing, especially after it was like, oh, if you say Beetlejuice 3 times, they'll appear. So she kind of takes note of like, oh, wait. People are really scared of this stuff. Maybe I shouldn't do this. Especially now that the teacher made a comment of like, hey, don't mess around with that. I'm like, okay, I guess I'll just pay attention. But kind of was drawn to this class from just like original interest, like back at home, of studying the gods and really idolizing them. So there's like some like Garnet maybe disagrees with some of the teachings, but finds it all like a new perspective interesting, and hopes to maybe approach the teacher just quickly after class for a question.
Absolutely. What would her question be?
Is it a female teacher or male teacher?
Yeah. Female teacher.
Miss, I remember reading. Oh, do you know anything about eyeless Infernals or eyeless sovereigns, eyeless God. Okay, we can't say gods, but beings.
If you're speaking about the way that a specific piece of lore or mythology or history would be discussed, and the people involved in that are using the word gods, then academically it's appropriate to use the term. We just avoid the term when we're talking about them in objective stances. But if we were talking about, say, the river spirit that I may or may not hypothetically have in a bottle in my pocket, to the people of that village, that is a god. It's all about context. As for eyeless things, nothing specifically. Definitely nothing that would be covered by this particular course. Why? Where did this come up?
Oh, just some books from back home. Just something about eyeless beings and tied to magic. And I was really curious because how would you ever cast magic without eyes? Isn't that silly? Is there a library that talks about eyeless things?
No, we don't. First off, there actually are plenty of blind spellcasters. They manage their own way.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it just would obviously learn with a different modality. And no, we don't have a library specific for just for things that are eyeless. If you've been reading texts at home, a lot of occult traditions will couch their language in secret symbols, codes, puzzles, that sort of thing, to avoid revealing their secrets to anybody but people who already know what it means. In this case, eyeless could be a metaphor, or it could be a code of some kind.
Oh, well, that's interesting. All right, thank you. And then scurries off.
Weird kid. Necra.
Yeah.
Let's swap over to you for a moment. You're doing Herbalism and Botany. And a lot of the people in this class seem to be just kind of excited to get into alchemy. But a lot of them are kids who just like, they're just excited to be out in nature with plants and such.
Arianna is also very happy to be outside with plants and stuff.
The Great Hall has a garden. It's an open air
Thank
garden.
God.
Yeah, it's got some nice greenery in there. They've imported a lot of different things. And the teacher for this class is Sig Gezig. Sig
Say
is,
that 5 times fast.
people usually just call them Siggy or Sig. Always followed by a swarm of ravens, very tall, spindly, got sunken eyes and hollow cheeks. People compare them to a scarecrow, always surrounded by birds and this very gaunt figure. Always smells
Scarecrow then.
smells vaguely of recently turned earth, and has a very encyclopedic knowledge of all things botanical. Again, this is perhaps not the way that you learned back at home. There was a lot more sense of connection to nature and kind of this natural bond and letting things take their own course. There's a lot of emphasis in this class on just identifying plants, knowing what their properties are, knowing different ways to like grind them up and cook them to get different medicinal properties. Don't eat that, that'll kill you. You can eat that, but only if you've boiled it for 3 hours. A lot of, all right, for your test, I'm gonna bring in 3 sprigs of plants, and you have to write the names of each of them and what their different medicinal properties are. It's a lot more of a head class than a heart class.
This is giving me flashbacks to college, and I don't think I like it. I had a course that was actually just like this.
So did I. I'm drawing from experience here.
Oh, great. I'm so glad we can empathize with each other.
Was it environmental biology and ecology?
No, it was woody plants.
Oh boy.
They called a class woody plants.
I don't want to tell you what the teacher's name was.
Well, now you gotta.
I'll tell you guys later.
All right. We'll delete the VOD. No evidence. All right. How is Arianna handling this class?
She's kind of excited, I think, to learn more about the properties and the actual, identification of some of these plants. When she grew up, she had her own names for stuff. So she's just like, right, that's not a purple lotus. That is a, whatever it is in
fancy scientific name. Yeah.
Fancy scientific name. So it was kind of cool at first for her to be able to do that and kind of learn about those things. So
All right. And you never feel in this class like your inherent love of growing things is being stifled or being frowned upon. It's more that this is a rigorous academic course. And so a lot of the plants that, like you said, the purple lotus that you already knew, not only did you already know it, but the way that you learned what it likes and doesn't like was almost like interacting with a person, like figuring out what a person's likes and dislikes are. And so now, you've got whole charts of different properties and soil and proper soil chemical allotments and stuff like that.
Chemical
Exactly. X minutes of sun per day at this inclination, et cetera, et cetera.
Yes.
Is there anything else that Arianna wants to add or modify or inject into this class?
I think she would inject a lot of her personality, into kind of like the teachings that this professor is bestowing upon everybody. I think she would at some point actually have a conversation with the professor, even just going like, I really appreciate the way that we're learning about these things, but I was wondering if I could kind of impart my own knowledge too when it comes to taking these tests. Like I feel very drawn to nature in a very different way apart from the scientifics of everything.
Your input is always accepted. The purpose of this course is to instill you with specific aspects of knowledge, practical information. It does not invalidate your perspective, but it does dictate what will be on the test.
That's fair. I appreciate the conversation.
You are always welcome to speak in class. It will have no impact on what is on the test.
Then can I ask you a question?
You already have.
Another question, sir.
Yes.
Have you heard of any plants that have a common name called Ilis?
No. Perhaps certain parochial names for specific types of flowers that lack central identifying characteristics. But generally speaking, across the field of botany, no.
Okay, thank you very much.
Anything else from Arianna in this class?
Don't think so.
All right. Lightning round, and then we reconvene the team. Crowan, were you proficient in history before?
No.
You are now.
Yay! History gang.
Oh.
Leg Day, were you proficient in Arcana before?
I was.
From now on, whenever you're making Arcana checks about elemental magic, you may make them with advantage.
Pog.
Yo, Pog. Also gets a
Ah.
clap. Good job.
Lemon, were you proficient in religion before?
No.
Well, you are now.
Yay!
Necro, were you proficient in nature before?
Yes.
Well, now you're proficient with the Herbalism kit. We'll add that to your character sheet later.
Ooh.
You can make useful medicinal potions and supply, not like full alchemical potions. That's an advanced course, but you can make herbal remedies and stuff going forward. This represents, again, montage of just over the year, all these studies.
You can make the entirety of Gwyneth Paltrow's goop range.
Put that back in my brain.
Oh no. I was trying to forget.
Oh, well, now you're back in the goop family.
All right. Has anybody got any disadvantage left? Just asking for no particularly specific reason. All right. So the team can reconvene. You've each had a chance to do some investigation. What else would the team like to do over the school year? before the rupture, of course, which is where we're approaching our dramatic stop for the night. So feel free to convene, take notes, make any decisions you'd like. When we end our session tonight, it will be at the eve of the rupture.
I guess I would tell the group kind of like what I've been learning about in my botany and herbalism class, and kind of get excited about the fact that I can make minor potions and things like that might be beneficial for everybody. And then I also tell them that I did a little bit of research on. Do I know about this by chance? I'm assuming I know about this at this point because I actually asked about it. I forget.
Sorry, about what?
Eyeless?
Yeah, you didn't get any direct super close clues. There's a couple of different flowers that are called that in certain places, but it doesn't seem to be a unifying clue towards the puzzle.
Right. I basically tell them about the conversation that I had with my professor about how it doesn't seem as a plant.
Yeah, there wasn't much in the elementalism class to help our particular quandary here, but otherwise, it was quite interesting. Lots of maths. I've had to catch up on that very quickly.
Yeah, I don't think my class was that helpful either, and I think actually I got a bit lost when it comes to finding the older students' classrooms. I might have to revisit that. I thought I knew where they were, and I probably should know given my maps, but
It draws everything into question with your floor plan.
yeah, it kind of does. Maybe there was some more secret something. I don't know. Weird.
It's the three-dimensional part.
Any more hidden rooms, Garnet, where perhaps the older students are being taught?
Oh, I don't know. I should stick to the one hideout for now. For my class, I asked my teacher or professor about the eyeless, and she's not really sure, but she thinks it could also be a metaphor, so not someone who's actually eyeless, but I don't know, it could be some kind of symbol or metaphor. I don't know.
I think that's probably right. It just means something else.
Can I roll a history/arcana check to see if there's any like quadra reference in the sort of like Dawn stories of maybe 4 forces? Like,
Roll a history check. Well, you were, let's see. Oh yeah. You were in the, did I get this backwards? You were in the elemental studies class, right?
yes.
All right. Yeah, they wouldn't have covered that.
A random question. When I was on that magic carpet and I had that shadowy thing approach, did it have eyes?
It did not.
Like,
do you want to go
have a
looking for
mouth?
it?
I
It was
mean,
it was
thinking about
whispering.
it.
It was whispering. It had some sort of a terrible secret.
Yeah, I probably want to go look for it, but I probably want to consult with the Master L now during one of our tutoring sessions. Probably just ask her straight up what 4 eyeless and what this rune means.
Are you going to directly show her the rune?
Well, I guess I don't have a picture of it, but I would just say that the frog's rune and like the fact that it says 4 eyeless, and just ask her directly what it means.
God, IOTH. He's obsessed with the dawn magic when ideas became reality. Every time he puts his own he spent his entire journey learning all the rules, all the math, all the different practices to channel magic, but that's not his real love. His real love is for the way things used to be, when you could just dream something or imagine something and make it true. Everything he puts his personal touch on is always couched in some sort of a symbol. It's something so specific to him that it doesn't make sense in the larger context. For example, let me see this. Eyeless 4. A rune like this.
What about that shadowy thing I saw on the way back to the academy? I probably like tell her the story about what it looks like and what it said. Anything about transmitting pain will transfer pain,
God.
or is that just unrelated?
You're
Maybe
being
you're just
followed by an Alep?
an Alep. What's an Alep?
Well, it used to be a person.
A ghost?
Oh, you haven't taken that class yet. No. A ghost is something very specific. An Alep has learned something that destroyed it. The mere possession of that knowledge corrupted its flesh, tore apart its mind, and it is tormented with this information. Facts and illogical pieces of data. It's actually a hazard of our particular field. Anybody who deals with the hungry dark, there's always a chance that you could delve too deep and discover something your mind isn't ready for. It learned something that's tearing it apart from the inside, and until it shares its secret with another mortal, its torment cannot end.
Well, it shared something with me. Is it happy now?
Given the fact that you aren't an Alep, probably not.
I would become an Alep if you shared the secret?
Yeah, if you learned its secret
Oh.
and you weren't able to withstand it, then it would be freed because it would have it's not able to transform its pain into something else, so it has to transmit it to you.
Oh.
And it is very likely to be attracted to shadow magic wielders or anyone else who deals in truly forbidden knowledge. So on the one hand, it might know the secret to unlocking the circle. On the other hand, it might not be able to share that without telling you something else, something horrible that destroys your mind.
Well, what could destroy a mind? That's silly. Don't you think? Why don't I just go talk to it? I mean, I've trained for years under Merrick,
You
under all this stress.
are not ready for whatever that thing has to share.
What do you mean I'm not ready? I've been studying for years. How could I not be? How do I get ready? How could I possibly be more ready?
She holds out her hand towards the chalkboard, and it crumbles and dissolves into colorless ash. And beyond it, you see a shimmering shadow on the wall of a city, a silent city rising from a plain of infinite gray dust, something that you've seen once before when Mirek opened the pathway through shadows that led you to safety. You saw it off in the distance. What is that?
A city?
You're wrong. You're not ready. She
So-
closes her hand into a fist and the image vanishes.
So no, how do I find out what this 4 eyeless means?
Given that it's IOTH and given that he thinks he's more clever than everybody else, it doesn't mean it has nothing to do with being eyeless. The secret is hidden somewhere in the way that the words are put together.
Can we just can I just go ask him? How do I make appointments with Sir IOTH?
He's not going to speak with you. Besides, why are you meddling with this magic circle anyways? That Marit is there to regulate the weather and the water in the grove. It's doing a vital function.
I don't know, it's cool. I want to go learn about it.
You can learn about it in all of your classes. Look, there's a riddle hidden here in the letters themselves, probably completely detached from the meanings of the words, and I strongly encourage you to consider this to be a thought experiment.
Okay.
This has nothing to do with shadow magic anyways. IOTH's fancy little dawn magic is nothing compared to the infinite void of the hungry dark. Focus your mind, Garnet.
All right, next page.
All right.
That's it. And I probably shared this with everyone about
In the
fact
common
that
room. Yeah.
yeah, so next lunch I probably just
Mm-hmm.
don't mention the owl. Well, probably on some random other time, but for now, just focusing on the eyeless part. Yeah, guys, I'm even talking to Master L now after classes, and she thinks it's some kind of riddle. Like maybe this doesn't actually have to do anything with something eyeless, but rather the letters could be rearranged into something else.
That makes sense, actually. The Y and the S are capital. randomly. I didn't quite know why, but maybe that has something to do with it.
And the capital Y is opposite an empty space. Maybe there could be some kind of rearrangement. Or possibly they could move across.
Athalor, roll an Arcana check for me.
Is it elemental magic?
Yeah, it is.
Double
Fog! I'm climbing that
advantage.
advantage, baby. Fuck
Wow,
me.
just that's abysmal. That's so bad.
Lucky dice.
That's so bad. An 8 and a 5. Wow. All right. There might have been something useful, but you're kind of distracted by the fact that everybody's been talking a lot about the rupture that's coming up and taking precautions. Essentially, everybody's supposed to make sure that they're sitting in a quiet area. All students are expected to hand in their spell components and their spell foci during the rupture to make sure that nobody actually accidentally casts a spell during that time. They need to have.
He'd be anxious, like, is him talking to me magic? Will that break me?
A good question. So yeah, there might have been something that you could have derived from this, but nothing at the moment. Alexander, the voice speaks to you.
So what are you going to do with your pet genie once you've cracked this?
Well, I don't know. This is kind of step one, right? Just to crack it and then can figure it out from there. Did you have an
Step
idea
one
or
is
something?
usually to have a purpose behind your actions, an end goal, an intention, not simply proving you can do it, so maybe you do belong here, so maybe you aren't a massive fraud, so maybe your parents were worth the bargain that they made. You can't just start from there, you have to start with a purpose, a function. What are you going to do with your genie pet?
I don't know. It could be like a safety measure. It could help in case someone discovers me or something, and it's safety for me.
Does Alex ever look physically uncomfortable while this communication is happening?
Probably a little bit. Yeah.
So my class ability is creating a telepathic bond, and I'm not sure to what degree it can be vetoed.
Well, can you click on? If you click on it, will it post the full description?
Should do that.
All right. You can form a bonus action. One creature you can see. You and the chosen creature can speak telepathically with each other. All right. So it doesn't have to be a willing creature. So you can create the bond, but it doesn't let you read their thoughts. It just lets you send each other telepathic communications so you can speak silently. Thought reading comes later in your skill progression. Don't worry.
All righty. Just checking, in which case, we'll leave it for now.
Perhaps spend more time coming up with a purpose for all of this than solving the riddle itself.
Sure. I'll make a purpose.
All right. Does anybody have anything else that they want to contribute? Do we want to mull this over the course until our next show with the rupture imminent tomorrow? What do we think? What else do we want to do?
I don't think there's too much more for Athalor. I'm not entirely sure.
Probably like while we're like maybe studying, I'd want to talk about the Alyp.
Mm-hmm. The
That's what I
Alyp.
wrote down. Yeah. So like while we're all studying, I'd be like, yo, you guys ever seen an Alyp before or heard of one?
What's an
What is
Alyp?
that?
I don't know. It was
Sounds like a spot or something. Like you'd pop one.
I don't know. It's like a ghost. I guess I saw a ghost
Oh.
at the school. It's
Huh?
Any dead
Master
people
Elm.
who'd want to talk to you?
Are you haunted?
I wouldn't want to talk to me. There's better things to do. But this ghost was like saying, what was it? those who can't transmit pain will transfer pain or something. And I was just on the carpet back to the school, and then this Alep talked to me, and it was kind of spooky. My head was all woozy after, and I think I almost force choked somebody, but I wasn't sure what that came from. But kind of the same feeling actually when we were in the woods, kind of like that. So maybe it's unrelated, but yeah, I don't know what this Alep is.
Would we have access in the common room to like books we could like flip through, but like, how about that?
Yeah.
Dictionary.
Just the A to Z of all things undead and creepy. You could
Was it
find
like this.
yeah, it does sound like a reference to an undead creature that's created when a mortal possesses knowledge or lore that destroys their mind and corrupts their soul. Secrets include the true name of powerful fiends, horrifying knowledge about the actual cosmic order, seeing, the face of something from beyond the stars, all sorts of stuff. It's the sort of stuff you could learn if you study here too hard. Maybe not here in kindergarten, but...
You met one of these?
Yeah, I don't know. It just was whispering some stuff at me and then booshed away. And my head got kind of fuzzy, but I guess I'm fine. So I don't know. We've seen some weird stuff. We've seen hags, we've seen fish people, we've seen ghosts. So not the most secure school I've ever been to, but I was just wondering if this had any relation to eyeless things, because it didn't have any eyes, but I don't know.
It probably knows the secret. It probably could help you. Sorry, go ahead, Necra.
I actually think I figured it out.
Really?
Yeah.
So
What is it?
you guys were talking about an anagram with Y and S being capitalized. If you actually put the letters in a different arrangement, it becomes see yourself.
Oh.
Huh. Like with a mirror?
I have no idea beyond that.
With water, it's a. I don't know.
Well,
That's what I've been working on.
It's always the one who, like, somebody goes quiet and they're just down there cracking things.
Well, I mean, Master Elnow said we could figure out the secret of this code if it's not see yourself, or we could check if it's correct or not. With this Alep, it's just there's a lot of danger, and she said I wouldn't be ready, but there's also the fact that IOTH knows what this is, and we can't get a meeting with him, but there's also a way of spying on him or something.
What if
don't
we
know.
came with you? We would never want you to go alone.
Just barge into his office? Or you mean the Alep?
To see the Alep.
Oh yeah. Well, that puts us all in danger. I mean,
Do we even
something
know how
about
to find it?
well, I know where I last saw it.
I was trying to find you, right?
I guess, but
Bait.
I don't know. It's something about if the secret will destroy my mind, whatever that means.
But
So
if there's 4 of us, then we each carry a quarter of the burden.
I wonder if it's going to reveal a secret to each of us, or just a secret that will affect all of us.
It seems
It's really
like
dangerous.
it's like a pass it on thing. You would assume that one of us would turn into the Alep and then turn the next person and then turn the next person.
Athalor, your uncle speaks to you.
Humans are rarely this perceptive. This knowledge could be divided.
Might be worth a try, though. Always worth some curiosity.
Well, the ideal time to sneak out would be while all the grown-ups are distracted during the rupture. Now, that might also be the least good time for you to break out. We'll have to make that decision on our next episode. So, in the next one, the gang discovers a horrifying secret that can destroy their brain and transform them into an undead monstrosity. Thank you, everybody, for joining us tonight. Thank you for your inspiration and disadvantages. And we will see you next time on Book of Dawn, IOTH Academy.